Good morning, welcome, and welcome to another edition of the Legal Zone, where we tackle injustice. My name is Salon Phillips, and with me today I have, as usual, the lovely Dr. Cheney. Dr. Cheney, good morning. I see you're on mute. Just nod your head. You're on mute. All right, here you go. We'll get to that later. We also have Mr. John Salati. Good morning, John Salati.
Good morning, Salon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. And today we have two very special guests that I'm going to get to in a minute. But first, I want to talk about something that we talked about a few weeks ago, and that was immigration law. And I mentioned how immigration is not a subject on the bar exam. Anyone who is studying to take the bar exam, I know you all took it last month, you're not going to find any questions about immigration on that exam. Maybe it should be on the exam, because our nation, the United States, was founded on immigration. This country was built by immigrants. So when you say that immigration is not on the bar, or even worse, immigration law is not a course that's mandated in law school, that in itself is an injustice. And I'll never understand why. But we're going to talk about that today. And we have two great guests. But let me do an overview of this. Again, immigration is not going to be on the bar for the law students who watch the show. So you might want to pay close attention to this. What is immigration law? Immigration law is simply the rules and regulations established by the US government for determining who is allowed to enter into the country and for how long they're allowed to stay here. That's what immigration law is, a set of rules that govern who comes into the United States and for how long they stay in the United States. A couple of terms. Visa. What in the world is a visa? I'm sure you've heard of it. A visa, what is it? Well, a visa is an official document that allows the holder to legally enter into a country. We're talking about the United States, so the United States. It's a pass, so to speak. It's a pass that says, here, you're okay to enter. Now come. Another word, passport. What in the world is a passport? Some of you may have passports. Some of you may not have a passport. But a passport is just simply a document that is issued by your country, and it gives you the permission to travel in and out, to return back. That's a passport. The difference between the two is simple. Passports are given by your country, visas by the other country. All right, now let's talk about the types of visas, and this is what we're going to get into today. There are certain types of visas. There's immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas. The non-immigrant visa, that's issued for temporary purposes. You visit the United States, but this type of visa has an expiration date. Then you have the immigrant visas that's issued to people who would move here permanently. They never expire. So let's go over some of these non-immigrant visas or temporary visas. And our guest is going to help us with these in a minute. There's an A visa, diplomats and foreign government officials. A2, NATO 1G, foreign military visas. Again, these are temporary. B1 visa is a temporary business visa. B2, this is probably the most common visa. Visas for tourism, coming to the country to visit friends, pleasure, vacations, going to Disney World, all of that good stuff. You would apply for a B2 visa. BCC, or border crossing card, only applies to Mexican citizens. It's a pass to come into the country called a BCC visa for Mexicans. C visa, that's the passing through visa. You're passing through the US, but it's not your final destination. A lot of crew members would have these visas. Then you have the E1 and E2 visas, which are a treaty trader and a treaty investor visa. We'll talk more about that later as well. F&M visas are for academic and vocational purposes. H1 is like they have every letter of the alphabet. H1B visas are for employees in a highly specialized field, whereas HB2 visas are for temporary non-agricultural workers. This is another popular one. H3 visas are for training purposes. Then you have a J visa, exchange visitors, i.e. exchange students. L visa, intra-company transferee visa. If you work for a company that's also in the United States, in your country, you could apply for an L visa and come to the country. O visa, for people with extraordinary abilities. Isn't that something? If you have an extraordinary ability and you live in another country, apply for an O visa. P visa, athletes, entertainers, artists. I tell you, there's just about a visa for everything. And we'll talk about the injustice of how you see all of these visas, but is it easy to get one of these? We're going to talk about that. R visa, temporary religious workers. T visas for victims of human trafficking. V visas for family unity. The V visa allows families who are in the process of waiting for the completion of their immigration process to be reunited with their family here in the United States. And then you have U visa for crime victims. So that was mostly all of the temporary or non-immigrant visas. Here are the immigrant visas or the permanent visas. Two main categories, and I'm sure most of you had heard of these, and we have a huge international audience. So I'm sure this is going to be very interesting to you, this show today. Two main categories: immediate relative and family sponsored visas. The IR visa is the immediate relative visa. After being married for 2 years, you gain permanent status. The CR1 visa, you have just been married, and for 2 years, you will maintain conditional, that's the C, conditional status. This is to prevent marriages from happening only for obtaining permanent residence in the US. There's tons of court cases where someone gets married, and after they're married, the spouse starts to treat them like crap, and then they realize that they only married them to get this permanent status. So they have this little conditional phase to this visa. K1 visas are for fiancé visas. It allows you to stay in the US for up to 90 days. You're expected to be married during this time while you're here in the country. K2 is for unmarried children under the age of 21 of K1 holders. You have to follow that. K3, created to shorten the time that the married couple is away from each other while one of them is waiting for their petition to be approved. The US has tons of ways to get people into the country legally. F2 visa is for the minor children, spouses, and unmarried children of those who have immigrant visas. So those are the family-related ones. Now the employer-sponsored EB1 visa. This is for first priority workers, your professors, your researchers, multinational managers, etc. EB1. And again, this is a permanent type of visa. You get an EB1, you could live in the country permanently. EB2 is for the second priority workers, professionals holding an advanced degree or who either have a bachelor's with 5 years work experience, EB2. Then you have an EB3, third priorities. These are skilled workers who have at least 2 years of experience or training. Then you have an EB4, visas for certain special immigrants, EB5, targeted at investors. The EB5 visa, a permanent type of visa, they're targeted towards investors. And there's 4 types of these. There's the C5 investor that falls under the EB5. Those are for investors who create jobs outside of targeted areas. And we'll talk more about what a targeted area is. T5, investors who create jobs in targeted rural or high unemployment areas. Again, this is under the EB-5, which is targeted at investors. Then you have the R5 for investors who participate in an investor pilot program that's not in a targeted area. And then we have the I-5, and those are for investors who participate in an investor pilot program in targeted areas. So EB-5 visas for investors, and there's 5 sub areas under the EB-5. I know that's a lot. Our producer would put this in the notes so anyone who's interested can have an idea of these type of visas that's offered. Now to our wonderful guest. We have Bob Bybanian and Joseph Barr. They are part of a company, Visa to America, and I'll let them explain who they are and what they do. Bob, we'll welcome you first. How are you doing this morning, Bob?
Very good. Thank you. It's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. And where are you from, Bob?
Well, I am originally from Iran, but I'm Armenian. So I am a mix of Iran and I guess Armenia. I have not been in Armenia itself, but I am Armenian, speak Armenian at home.
Oh,
But of course I can speak Farsi also, which is the language of Iran.
okay. Glad to have you here. And what's the name of the company that you're with?
Visa to America. This is what we do. You spoke about all the categories. My special responsibility is the investment visa, more the E2, but meanwhile, EB-5 also. We do all kinds, but my specialty is in this area.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And then we have Mr. Joseph Barr. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. How you doing, guys?
Great. Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about you and the company.
Yeah, I work for Visa to America. Again, as Bob described now, we specialize in all type of visa, but mainly we do a lot of employment-based, and also we deal with investment, meaning that people who want to come to the US, invest money, create jobs in the United States, and at the same time, get any type of visa to be here. I was born in Israel to a parents that in fact immigrant to Israel. They didn't want to immigrate to America. I said enough for them to immigrate one time. My father born in Morocco, my mom born in Marseille. In fact, our original blood is mainly Spanish and Italian. So we kind of mix a variety of family. So coming to United States, I myself married a Chinese woman. So we are mixed again. And my kids are typical, what we call the American kids who grew up here, who doesn't understand the comprehension of how much pain it is to go through to come to United States. They're just born into it. And they hold 2-3 passports and their life is easy. So my son worked in GM, which is what can be more American than that, in Michigan. My second daughter in last 4 years of pre-med school, and the last one just got accepted to UCLA. So they're doing well. But again, that's what I'm doing because I've been through that process myself. And I think as someone who came to the United States to go through that pain of what can happen to immigrant in any level of process, understand how it can be difficult to come here. And that's why in a way, I was drawn into it, helping others to do it right and not to go through what I've been through. And seeing it going through my parents coming to Israel and the language issue and the culture and finding the right job and going through stimulating into a culture and me moving here and going through the same process again, it's fascinating to see how things can happen. And in fact, I have a very vast knowledge across the globe in many, many, many countries that I visited, working directly with the top official in many governments. And understanding the culture, I really respect and love culture. I think the first thing I do in every country I went, even countries we probably doesn't mean much like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, or other countries that people maybe never heard of, allow me to understand the local culture and how people think. And in fact, the world is the same. Just people want better life, and America in a way that's what they think is better life. And that's what we're here for.
Now, one of the things that I pride most in our show is we're so eclectic and diverse. If any of you who have been following us, you see that we're probably the most diverse program on radio, TV, and the internet. We have clients from family law, criminal cases. We had someone from Haiti not too long ago. We've had well-known journalists. We have people from all around the world. We talk about all areas of life, all areas of law. And I'm proud of that. But today we have two men, someone from Iran, someone from Israel. And the one thing that unites all of these shows and people is the injustice. There's things that are happening in people's lives that are unfair and unjust. And that's the purpose of our show. Now, can you tell us in this immigration sect and coming to this country, what are some of the things that you have noticed that's just been unfair?
I probably can talk about it hours because I've been doing it for over 30 years. And I see both sides of the angle. Many times you will see, first, let's talk about different types. When we look into the immigration and you go to the officer in the embassy, you have a lot of discretion that those people have. And in fact, in many ways, a person who comes to the embassy sometimes stay speechless because he feels that he did everything right to come to the United States. And in fact, it's very discouraging to them because someone who said, you know what, I opened a business in New Jersey, I spend the money you told me to do, I start a beautiful business, I hire American people, and after I did all that, now I'm stuck in my country and I can come and can run my business because the officer have all these amazing powers, all this discretion, what they call discretion.
So when you're talking about discretion, you're talking about when somebody fills out an application to come into the country, you have one person who has the authority to say yes or no.
Yes, and a lot of them, I think they have the good heart in place, but I think sometimes when you've been, it's almost like I call it like a doctor that see too much death and become numb. In many ways, they become numb to people, and not always they think in rational that makes sense. And sometimes looking at what's happening, I think it's also a lot to do with politics. So if you come from a certain country and maybe the politics is not in favor to that country, it doesn't matter if the person is so perfect. And we had example of a guy came from Egypt and he did everything supposed to. He raised money, he built a business, he done trade, he bring business people to invest in the United States. He done an amazing job. And after all the work we done on the E2, he got denied. And no explanation. Explanation are very lame. Just file again later, maybe if you do more ABC, but in fact, that's what you do. But in the other way, if you come from the border and jump the border to the United States, you probably get more rights than trying to do it correctly. So sometimes it's kind of discouraging to see that. The other way that I see a lot is I think that if we compare ourselves to what's happening in Canada now, there are many countries who learn from what not to do from the US. And the reason why, because even though we are immigrant country, if you look at the bills that are passing in Congress many times, they're always trying to patch into it certain group of people, and you try to understand why they're doing what they do. So technically, because of the forces of the House and the Senate, there's always in the end some kind of mishmash of immigration that doesn't make sense. So let's say I go to Canada and I'm a great entrepreneur, or I have a lot of education in a certain area. My path will be very clear. They will tell me, okay, you do A, you do B, you do C, you get permanent resident. You do the other things, you're a good citizen, you pay taxes, you get citizenship. We want you. In the United States, it's very hard. It's really tough for people who are good people. And I'm talking about high caliber education wise, and look at just an example about visa called H-1B. H-1B is a visa that's supposed to bring the most qualified people to the United States. We have only 65,000. 65,000 of those qualified can come to the United States. The need is massive. Now, those people most of the time take the country up because they make more money, they pay more taxes, and they bring a lot of knowledge that we need here. So technically, a lot of high-tech company or people who can move amazing businesses to the United States. not always have the opportunity because there is a 400,000 applicant, and in short time, there's only 65,000 who will get it. And then it's a lottery system. So you don't even know if you get it. So the whole time it was like, okay, the big companies will get big chunk of it. So now the government tried to rectify that and make it easier. But there are definitely a lot of injustice and different type of situation. And most of the time what we do when we see situation like that, we try to help. So let's say, normally you work with the guys who have the money and everything's okay, but you see certain people who don't have the money, who went through what we call the VAWA, which is, by the way, was Biden, in fact, one of the big programs that he was working on, Victim of Women Act, which means helping women or men who married a US citizen who take abuse against them. So we see those situations, we deal with that. We see all kind of stories that's happening across the globe, but it's fascinating to see how much the system in the United States is so broken. And the government also have another problem. Most people don't know that if today, I'm in LA, if you go to court today and you want to get your visa and something happened and you go through the immigration process, we shut down tomorrow the immigration court in LA, we shut it down. Probably we're talking about 10 to 15 years before they finish the cases without taking any new case. That's how bad it is. So people can be here staying stuck in this. I always told it the golden cage. It's like a limbo that you can go home and people have families, leave their family behind. They can't see them. And they stuck waiting for something to happen because they know if they go back, they have nothing. If they stay here, they can support the family, but they can't even see them. So they're missing on birthday, on funerals, or who knows, all this connection with the family, which create a massive problem. So in my opinion, a lot of it could be fixed if someone will be just using a little bit common sense, learning even from our northern border in Canada, how they handle immigration, learning from Australia, learning from other countries who really did a great job fixing it. It doesn't mean that you allow bad people to come. You vet the people, you make sure that they do the right thing. But the system is broken.
Now there was a young girl who from Israel. What's her name and what was her story?
Yeah, I don't think we probably want to keep the name out now, but the story was the mom, she's an attorney, and she married to a guy.
And where does the mom live?
She lives in Israel and she's an attorney, okay? So to be an attorney, you have to go through all this, being a moral turpitude, and Israel is very tough about it, sometimes much more than the United States. And she worked hard, she does everything right, and she married a guy that was accused of selling drugs. The accusation was dropped and nothing happened, and they found that he never did it, so he was acquitted and nothing happened. There was no even trial right in the beginning stage. The daughter wanted to go to have her bat mitzvah visit the United States. She's only 12.
How old is the daughter?
12 years old. And she's not, she go to the embassy and the consular decide that they're going to take her visa away. All the family have a visa, they just needed to extend it because her father was accused of drug. He was never convicted of anything. And talk about the biblical way of parents who did something wrong and how the children pay for it. She's at 12 years old. How the hell in the world she'll be punished for something that she have no doing on it? And this is an insane case. We have a fantastic family who do everything right, who just accused. The father was accused way back before she even born. And now she born into a father that now, oh, we're going to take your visa away, even though she visited the United States before. And now she would just want to do a Disneyland trip with her mom, and she can't. So they took a visa away, and now we're trying to rectify that to work with the embassy. But that's, in my opinion, insane. It's like, I can't even understand. How can you think like that?
Yeah, that's so unfortunate. Bob, you had mentioned the E1, E2 visas. Tell us a little bit more about that. Are there stipulations? Is it open to every country? Talk to us more about what the E1, E2 visas are.
Well, it's not open to any country. US has got some kind of a treaty agreement with certain countries, which citizens of those countries can use the E2 visa. And one of the conditions for that is to invest certain amount in any business in US, either buy a existing business or start a new business. Now, in the regulation, they don't mention anything about what is the minimum investment amount. What they are saying, they're using the word substantial to the business. So it depends how much the business needs to operate successfully. I think one of the most important things we are trying to tell our potential clients is that their success is what we are looking at. We don't want to see them to come here, start a business, even invest whatever they can, and not being successful. So that substantial is very important. Now, if you try to put a big factory which needs $1 million or $2 million, so even if you put $500,000 is not enough. But if you have a business which is smaller, needs 100, 250,000, then obviously 200,000 will be good, enough to invest in the principal amount plus operating costs, so that at least you and your family can live a comfortable life. So E2 is the most popular one because the investment amount relatively is not that much. And meanwhile, it gives opportunity to the family also. Because if you get the person who applies, either the husband or one of the spouses, or even unmarried people. But then if they're married, their wife will get E2, and children under 21 will get E2 also. And they can come over and start their business. Now, that's, as Ron explained, it's a non-immigrant visa. It's only for work, but it can be extended forever. So basically, somebody can stay here for 100 years or as long as he can to work in the business which is creating.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because the E1, E2 falls under that non-immigrant temporary visa, which it will expire. What's the expiration date of E1 or E2?
Well, E2, most places is 2 years for time being. The only exception is Canada, which if you apply in Canada, you will get it for 5 years. That's the initial expiration, but then you can, as I said, extend it every 2 years. So before it expires, it's a relatively simple thing. As long as your business is doing okay, and as long as your business is running, then you're okay. You will just file for extension and you will get extension every 2 years.
Okay. What are some of the countries under the treaty that are allowed to take the benefit of this E1 or E2?
Well, most of European countries, Canada is, Mexico is also. Some countries which there is a lot of demand, but they are not part of the treaty is India, for example, which there is a lot of demand. We see a lot of requests from Indian citizens, but they cannot. So they are not part of the treaty. There's about 40 to 45 countries which they are part of the treaty.
Okay. All right, Dr. Cheney, let me get you in.
Okay, how are you, both of you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good, okay. I have, I guess you call it an application question. Can you talk about the Ukrainian war and immigration in your various countries?
I can explain a couple of things. First, I'll tell you something interesting. I, in 96, was invited to help some very bad situation in the Philippines with some hurricane and other issues there. And I went there to help some American company to build quick homes in a very short time. It was Christmas. I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate much Christmas. So I went there and they said, you know what we do in Christmas? I said, what? So we go see orphans in the Philippines. So I went and saw orphans. And I'll tell you the story why I'm saying that. I went there and it broke my heart. And that moment changed a big switch in my head. And I decided whatever I do in life, I'm going to help children. So I opened an adoption agency in Texas in 1997. Through this adoption agency, I learned a lot because it's also immigrant in a way. You're bringing young children immigrating to the United States. They don't even know, but some of them know. And the things happen is that down the road, I go to Azerbaijan, invited by UNICEF to help a couple children. Some of my trip, I walk in Russia, St. Petersburg, Irkutsk, near the Baikal Sea lake. And if you go check about Putin, he liked to dive with the submarine in that lake because it's the deepest lake in the world. Now, I work in Ukraine. I never done adoption in Ukraine, but last week I'm getting a phone call from San Antonio news media asking me a lot of questions about what's going on with adoption and how it's affecting everything. And now we see what's happening. First, I think understanding the culture, because I work in that region a lot, in Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, there's a lot of issues with former KGB people who became leaders of those countries. That was former Russia, the big Russia, USSR. And there is a lot of back scene that we don't understand, but no, even me, as someone who grew up in Israel, who was in the Navy for 7 years, who done almost everything in the book you can think about in the Navy, work with the US, work with other government. I understand the government culture. I'm speechless, honestly. And what's happening there, it's devastating in any level. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense in any way. It maybe makes sense to Putin, but not into other countries. Now, there's some, you probably guys don't hear that on the news. There is some Israeli people who remember Jewish that went through the Holocaust about what they've been through in Ukraine. And the Ukrainian helped to murder a lot of the Jewish people. So there's some animosity into that. But the second part that I see now, a lot of Israelis want to help them to come to Israel. So the immigration now, you can't have immigration. And the immigration now, I think Israel handled it probably better than the US. I don't see, it's kind of scary because it makes me feel like what the Jewish went through with America shut down the border and say, you can come here through the Holocaust and millions been died until the war was coming to the US doors. And then we woke up and said, okay. And we're looking at all this mess that's happening there. No one is doing anything. And I understand we don't want to get involved in this nuke. And there's probably a lot of things we don't know because there are a lot of things that the president have more aware than we normal people are aware of. At the same time, I don't think immigration part, there's a lot done in the US part to help those people. We help them with money, but now all the people around those countries like Poland and other countries, they're the one who now trying to help them. How we helping? I don't think there's much happening on that part. But it's very delicate issue, very sensitive because the US have a lot of business there. But again, I can talk a lot about it. I think all the oil issue, in my opinion, should be thought a long time ago, and we won't be in this situation today. That's a problem with the US. It's all the forces of evil that happening years back, and we're just financing it again and again through the oil with a very naive thinking. Maybe again, I grew up in Israel. I'm like the child who look at the king and he's naked. So I see that from the other side of the street, and I see that a lot because of my understanding. Because most people don't know, but I walked inside the window on the other side of the consul, looking at them and see why they make the decision. Because a couple of the consul adapted to it, and then they allow me to be with them to see why they're making decision. Why person A, B will come to United States. It's kind of interesting. They have those manuals and training. It's almost like when lawyers go, we always say, don't lawyer me. You go to law school, your brain change, and you start looking at things differently. It's the same thing happening here in many ways when you become a consular. You become kind of numb. So I think in a way, a country like United States that's very compassionate should look and learn from the mistake of what's happening in the Second World War and see, okay, what we can do better now to help those people quickly to ease the situation. It's insane. Children, women, people dying for nothing. It's their life, it's their family, it's generation ahead that's just been wiped out now.
Right. Would you like to respond, the other gentleman?
I'm sorry?
I don't know if the other gentleman can hear me now.
Bob, you mean Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Oh, we're talking about the Ukrainian war and immigration and whether or not your country would be impacted at all with
Your connection.
I can't hear you. It's distorted. I can't hear you.
I'm talking about, I know, I hear the distortion. I'm talking about immigration, the war that's going on,
She's
any
talking,
connection with you.
she's talking about what is your thought about immigration and the war going on in Ukraine?
Well, one thing, when I see what I see on the news, it's terrifying. I just can't believe what's going on. How can a human being, the way Mr. Putin or his surrounding people think, what do they think when they bomb a big hotel or whatever with 1,500 people in there? So everything is so drastic that it's almost impossible to believe. I obviously, there are a lot of things which I don't know what's going on between the two countries, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I personally think anything can be resolved by sitting down and talking, or at least to a certain extent, avoid these big clashes with even Russian people. I understand the way the news says there are a lot of even teenagers in Russian army, and quite a lot killed or injured. So again, it's a terrible situation. I don't know if me personally or a lot of us can do anything except trying to help the people who now have fled there, over 3-4 million people, and they need help. They need a lot of medical, food, all kinds of help. And if portion of these people or part of these people can end up coming to US, I think US government should be really helping them as much as they can. Now, there's always limit to things which a government can do. And there are all sides of the story which they need to look at, but definitely they need help. And I guess US government and other governments, they should try whatever they can to help the situation.
Okay, you talked about what I'm coming away with as goals of immigration, goals, results. What do you think? The goals of the US immigration, the goals of your country. What do you think about the goal of immigration? You get my question at all?
Did you hear that? She's asking, what do you think the goals of the US immigration is? Is that right, Dr. Cheney?
The goals of immigration, period, because they're talking about the goals of immigration. The difficulty with the US seems to me they're looking for certain, maybe, what's the goal of your country with immigration? What is the goal of the US with immigration? And maybe they differ.
Well, I think immigration in any country, now we're talking about US, has got two sides. It's first to help our own country, US, because US is based on immigration from all over the countries to start with. The US started with immigration. Now, immigrants do bring a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and a lot of hard work to the country. So it improves this country, US. But meanwhile, it helps people from the other countries to give them opportunity for their own family and their own well-being. So the immigration laws in US, the way I look at it, is again, while you are helping others to come here, you are helping your own country also. So that's one thing which if they can fit in well and make sure that they give this opportunity as much as possible. It's obviously they have to prevent some so-called bad people getting, but at least the majority of people, if not all of them, have got good intention. So I think US should be facilitating the immigration law as much as possible. Again, not only to help the people coming in, but to help US in economic and other ways also.
Okay.
One more
Do the other
question?
gentlemen want to respond or not?
Yes, I think it's kind of interesting question. I think in the history, people, and I tell that to people many times. I tell people my first question to many people I talk to, why the heck you want to come to the United States?
Mhm.
And I asked them why. And the reason why I'm asking is because I said, listen, when you leave your family that you grew up, if you come from Philippines or China or India, you leaving your culture, your food, your chance to marry maybe a woman in your culture, your destiny, a lot of opportunity. And people just said, you know, even if I can come for a certain period of time and improve it. Now, there's all kind of reasoning why people come. Some people, like in Israel, will come to the United States just to get more education, just to learn the culture. That's why technically J1 visa is one of the most fascinating visa. People come, exchange culture. The United States students go to Israel, they study there in university and learn about the Israeli culture, learn the language, bring back certain way of thinking, and go back to, and the same vice versa, Israeli people coming here. But I'm talking about other countries. I always look at people in a way like ambassador. Let's say I came now from country that my technology, I come from Africa, whatever, technology, knowledge, or whatever, it's very limited because I don't have the resources. And I came to United States. I improve everything, I learn everything. I go back to my country. I bring that education and help my country people to improve. Now, guess what's happened? And I see that happening in agriculture and other things. People go back home and they take technology from the United States. So now you created a trade between this country because I'm taking the technology that I learned how to use because those countries don't know what to do and bring it to my country and improve better life for my people because I got now more resources, more knowledge, and maybe more connection. So immigration is not always about people. And I can tell you that I see that a lot. We always joke about many Israelis that I see in LA that they say, we always on the bag ready to go back to Israel. Because they come here, they want to make money, but at the end of the day, when they get older, where they want to go? We have one of our employee in the company, she is also fascinated. Mom came from Mexico, built a life, bought few houses, did well for herself. Her husband passed away, and then she said, you know what? I'm moving back to Mexico because with the money I'm making here, my life is amazing in Mexico because the dollar value I'm getting here, I'm okay. But there, I'm like a millionaire in my country. So the same thing happening, and you'll be surprised because many people say, oh, we want to come to America, we want to come to America. And people here sometimes are negative about it. But how many Americans go to other countries for whatever reason? Business, love of the nature, married woman that they fall in love with. So it's not like the immigration today. I think long time ago, I was laughing because I heard Muammar Gaddafi from Libya change his mindset. And he said, the Arab people, they asked him, why didn't you go to the Arab League meeting? And he looked at them and said, those idiots, they fighting on the Al-Ard. Al-Ard in Arabic meaning the land. The land doesn't mean anything anymore. They said, my daughter went to Europe, study there. If I want to buy a house in London, I buy a house in London. I get the money, I buy a house in London. I don't have the money, I go to maybe to Hungary or Budapest or whatever. I buy an apartment there that I can afford. So it doesn't mean that I cannot go to other country and change my location. So the global mobility of people, it's not anymore only the United States. And I can tell you from my experiences, a lot of people are very disappointed in the United States because of many things that you guys growing up here don't see. They said, you know what? I don't need to be here. It's too much headache, a lot going on. There's a lot of mixed laws that doesn't make sense. And they go back to the country and they're very happy. They're very happy because they're near their parents, they're near family. And I think moving to another country takes a lot of toll on a person. You don't see your family, you don't have time to be with them on the weekend. Maybe you cannot give the support and love to your mom or your parents. One of the sad things I saw in my life is that people from Mexico coming here, okay, some of them come illegally or overstay, and now they celebrate birthday in the border with their son, with a little hall that they bring the cake. And it's just crazy to me that the person cannot go back. And now all the time is depleted for men because they're all coming here to work instead of thinking different way. And I'll give you a fantastic example. Israel, you cannot become a citizen like in the United States unless you're married to a Jewish person. Interesting, huh? But what we did in Israel, we said, you know what, guys? We don't want you to come to be immigrant to Israel. Of course, we have immigration somewhere. What we did, we decided that all the temporary job, instead of giving them 6 months, 10 months visa, and then we forced them into this situation that they might want to stay longer and violate the law, we tell them, you know what, stay in Israel for 6 years. Work, make money, make 3,000, 4,000 a month. That's about 10, 20, 30 times more than what you make in your country. After 6 months, 6 years, go home, stay there for 6 months or 1 year. If you didn't violate the law, come back again. And you can go back as many times as you want until you get older and you cannot do it anymore. And people are happy because now they can take the airplane, fly back home and do it. In Israel now, and I think United States, if we're thinking about it, okay, there's a lot of people in different level that some of them come here and they don't want to be here. They just, because of the immigration convoluted laws, unclear laws, it put them into this box that they don't know how to deal with. And I see a lot of them here, Latinos, other countries, that they stuck for 20 years illegal in the United States. If you tell them, listen, can you go back to your family back and forth? They'll be so happy, they'll be cheerful. But we don't allow them because we don't have any mechanism to solve that problem with people that we need. And honestly, we have a joke in California that says it's legal to be illegal. Because if I shut down tomorrow all the illegals in California, guess what's happened? We have nothing. Everything shut down. 99% of farm labor in California, illegals, undocumented, okay? 80% of landscape, housekeeper. So everybody who come and say, oh no, it doesn't happen because we close our eyes and we're not going to ask those questions. Oh, how we do that, okay? This is what's happening. This is reality. Now, we can solve that. The United States could solve it in about 15-minute decision, but we don't. We don't have to give them green card or citizenship to do that. So coming to the United States, and many times people think, oh, you know, we take jobs from other people. No, the United States, when people come in, you want to bring the people that create the jobs, that bring the knowledge, bring technology, bring science, bring better improvement, be the light and the beacon, like they say in the Bible, to the others, correct? Be the sign of hope to show countries like Russia or other countries that this is not the way to live. We are modernization. People need to care for each other, not kill each other. That's crazy, okay? So we have enough evil in this world. We don't need more. So the United States government still, honestly, not only in the road and maintenance are 50 years behind. We are behind the main of immigration. That's a great example of how much behind we are. And not because people are not good, just because they don't understand what's going on here.
Dr. Cheney, I'm going to bring John in real quick because we're running out of time. Can you mute again because
She's feedbacking.
I can't hear you?
Yeah, John is talking. Yeah, I can hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Cheney, can you mute? I'm going to see if you can mute. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, John.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. It's been a fascinating conversation so far and hearing about the injustices. And I will comment from a personal perspective on something Joseph just said. I live in Germany. So I am an American citizen. I live in Germany. I'm married to a German woman. So I fit into one of those categories you just talked about. And you know, why somebody from here would be someplace else and the difficulties of navigating different cultures and the things you leave behind when you can't go back so easily. Of course, this is also in so many cases been compounded by the pandemic issues. So yeah, I could conceivably make the trip back. I don't have the visa problems that some of the people you're talking about have. That, yeah, once you're there, you can't leave because if you leave, then you lose your status and they won't let you back in kind of thing. But with the pandemic, it's almost the same, but you really can't leave because it's either there are barriers, we're not letting people in, or it's hard to get back and all of that. So I can very much appreciate the language, culture, family issues that people deal with when they choose to immigrate someplace else. So I can very much get that. You've mentioned a few times now, since the injustices in the American system, and it is very complicated. Again, I've looked at things about how my wife could become a permanent resident of the US in some ways, and the difficulties in trying to make that happen, and the number of hoops you have to jump through, and all that. And she's married to an American citizen, which in part makes it much easier than in other circumstances. And so I get that. And you've said a number of times now how we could fix this. I'm going to press you a little bit. Maybe you've hinted at this some, but what are the things? Could you enumerate, sort of bullet points, shall we say, certain things? Oh yeah, well, if we change this, this, and this, these 4 or 5 things, it would make a tremendous difference, both from the bureaucratic standpoint, because yes, we have difficulties letting people in post 9/11. Well, we have an anti-immigrant segment of the population, so we've made it harder. We've made it harder for certain groups, and now the whole thing has become much more convoluted and complicated than at least somebody looking at it from where you are, it needs to be. So I throw that my question to the both of you.
I tell you something very, it's interesting you saying that, because the US did not change much, even then after 9/11. And when I landed in the United States, 1991, first time, I have a family in Long Island. And as a kid, my aunt begged my mom that I move to the United States. She wanted me to study and be there. And I didn't want to. I said, if I cannot be successful in my country, why would the heck I won't go to the United States? I was happy in Israel. And years after I came back, and when I landed first time, I never forget, I landed and I called my father. It's 2 things happened to me. You're probably not aware, but Israel had no relation with China. And I was in the delegation that signed the first agreement with China because I was in the Navy at that time. When I came to China, I look at the people there, and I called my father, I said, listen, they're not Chinese. I said, what are you talking about? I said, they're Jewish. They're smarter than the Jews. They're very smart people, and I never saw somebody thinking so complicated. When I came to the United States, the first thing I saw, I was shocked with how backwards the country is in many, many ways. Because if you look at China and other countries, how quickly they develop and brought infrastructure and technology, and we are so behind. And I look at many places in Hollywood, I was speechless. But the first thing I saw that shocked me as a person who come from the military, I told my father, listen, one day, something bad going to really happen here. And he said, what do you mean? I said, you fly airplane like you take a bus. No security, nothing like in Israel. We check the people who's coming. We check everything that's going on. And when 9/11 happened, I was sitting in Malibu in my house, looking at the TV. The TV was on the first time. And I look at this and I said, it's like a deja vu in my head that I'm thinking, it was just meant to be. That's happened, to wake up call for the United States. So yes, a lot of security changed. I came from that arena. I'm telling you now, maybe it's a little bit scary, that nothing changed, okay? Not much change. You think it changed, maybe more technology, more knowledge, but I don't want to go more detail because I understand that. I understand security because I came from that area. I was in submarines. I was commanding on a frigate. I'm a major in my rank. I've done extensive stuff. The thing I see, while I'm saying 15 minutes, let me tell you a situation now. We have how many illegals in the United States? Undocumented. No one knows the real number. Let's say 15 million, 20 million. We need them. How about taking all these people and bringing to light all the bad ones? How we do that? 15 minutes away, we tell everybody, come to us, we'll give you a blue card, not a green card, okay? You're going to have a card to work in the United States now legally that allow you to go home. You pay taxes. Do you know how much taxes we're losing every day? Billions and trillions probably of dollars we're losing. We can tell them pay 10% tax, pay X amount of money, $2,000. They will run and pay instead of paying all this crazy coyote, whatever. once you do that, you stop immediately all the madness coming to the border. And I understand many people say, don't shut down the border, blah, blah. You have to control the border in some way. You have to, okay? And then stop the madness and allow good people to come and they can go back home and go. Immediately, you bring 15, 20 million people, whatever it is, the number, with legality right away. And now you can vet them because now you know who they are. You can check, okay, the guy's a criminal, the guy's what? People want to be good. But when you put them in that box of you're illegal, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, what do you think happened? They turn to be bad because when you put someone into the corner, eventually he'll do something crazy because when you have no hope and no choice, he might do something. So you brought him to that point. And it's hypocrisy to say in the United States that we don't need landscape and we don't need farming because we eat the fruit and vegetable that they pick up every day. And we don't need housekeeping and we don't need all these jobs that honestly, probably many congressmen and senators use them now. And they just don't want to talk about it because they don't have the people, okay? So what I'm saying is that you will be able to vet those guys. How long it's going to take? 15 minutes of two parties who stop hating each other, working together for the people of this country, bringing massive amount of taxes. Think if we just tell everybody, you guys, you want to be legal in this country, you get visa for 10 years now to be legal to work here, you pay $2,000 penalty. $2,000 time, 20 million. How much money are you talking about coming overnight? Take that money, use it for the immigration to process all this paperwork. Nobody pay anything and you have money coming in because now they want to pay taxes. They want to do the right thing, but they have to live under the table with the cash. And now what's happened the last few months, maybe people don't know. The banks now are crazy. You can open an account. Foreigner cannot open an account for bank. For it's unheard of. So if I want to start a business in the United States, I can open bank account until I have Social Security. How the heck I have Social Security if I don't have the visa? So I have to open bank account first to invest money to be able to open bank account. So there's so much insane. But again, I'm coming from a world that I decided in my life that I can help children. I cannot help adults. So I do all money I made, I send back non-profit 100% to help children. So I'm doing the adoption. It's my passion. But at the same time, when I look at people that work hard, they just want to do the right thing and they have no solution to go home, to see their family, we're creating this situation that it's just crazy. And it's just going to create trouble. That's why you see crime rates sometimes and many things that go out of control because they have no hope. And when a person
so how does your company now help people not living in the United States? What can you do for them?
I do what I did now, and I think I'll give an example. Israel for a long time, Israel people, and it's kind of funny. So anybody who is Jewish understand me. You go to Israel and you ask a Jewish mom, is your son is a farmer? She said, ha ha ha. Is your son is working in housekeeping? Ha ha ha. What your son is doing? Engineer, lawyers. We have more lawyers than people in Israel. Lawyers and doctors. That's what we have, okay? So we have very educated people. Now Israel said, okay, we need to bring people in. People coming to America, a lot of them are entrepreneurs. That's their mindset. So for a long time, until 2019 May, we had no E2 visa to allow people to invest and come to America. So what they did, they had to fake marriage, all kind of ladies here. And I saw that so many times. I said, guys, you're crazy. They'll catch you in big trouble. Now in deportation, you lie to an officer. They don't want to do that. They just had no. That's a very simple example to how you put a person to the corner. You put them into, there's no way. Okay, the only way is to marry an American girl. Okay, now the American girl take advantage of you because it costs you about $3,000-4,000 a month to maintain her, and for 3-4 years, and it's not even the person you love. Now she say all the time, "Oh, I'm going to tell the immigration that's not good." So now you're like in a hostage situation. Crazy. In 2019, finally they opened the E2 visa, and suddenly when people come and say, "Guys, I wish I had this megaphone, something to scream and say, guys, listen, okay, listen. We have E2. Don't make trouble. Create a business. This is what you want to do anyway, correct? Open your construction company, whatever. Build up your business and do the right thing." So if the US government think and cater into what they're good at, perfect. And I give you a fantastic example. When we start immigration in Israel, people don't realize why we brought people to Israel. Here's the reason why. And I don't care about the politics or whatever, because I grew up there. I grew up running with Arab guys in the middle of the street of Jerusalem until Arafat came to Israel. When 1999, 1991, every bus in Israel was potentially going to blow up. Coffee shop, people come with the vests, blow up. Israel said, you know what, enough is enough. They shut down the border. And suddenly I meet senators from the United States. It's sad to see all the construction shut down, all the agriculture shut down. So we start bringing people from other countries, we test them. And then we realized something very fascinating. You talk about discrimination. We didn't care. We said, okay, which country are the best for what kind of job? And we realized that there's certain people who have amazing skill from their country and they don't have skills for other jobs. So Israel started focusing on the skill coming from that country, not necessarily about trying to be very, homogenic and letting everybody come and you do that job that maybe you don't even like just because we don't want to discriminate. We discriminate, yeah. We told you, okay, you come to work in housekeeping. Filipinos are the best in caregiving, housekeeping. Farming, none of them want to do the job. The Thai people are the best. Construction, the Chinese doing the finish because they're making it by piece rate and they make a lot of money. And the Romanian like to do the concrete. Amazing. Slowly, the market, the employer realized where are the best people for what type of job they need. We let the market decide. We didn't tell them what to do. We let the market, and the market balanced after many years backwards. But one thing we do all the time, we don't tell you in the embassy who you are or what you want to do. We just check your background. We want to make sure that you have no evil and no crime to come to our country. That was the vetting. So in the United States, if we don't come and solve that problem in short time of all this illegal, we punish them. We try to say, we're good people. We're not. How can you treat people like that? In the United States today, a lot of people who clean our houses, who do the landscape, who do the farming, who bring the food to our table, who work so hard, have no basic rights. It's just insane. Sometimes medical, they need to do under the table everything and everybody close their eyes. I met people in Homeland Security that are my friends and they said, listen, if I close my eyes and I walk in downtown, every second person, third person I touch is illegal. What do you want me to do? I don't even have the manpower to deal with that. So the only thing this is Homeland Security, drinking beer with me and telling me the stories. I said, listen, the only thing I can do is find the bad guy. How can you find the bad guy? You give the good guys a chance and then the bad guys come out, because now they are.
So if somebody's watching this show from another country and they say, hey, I want to have my business, I want to come to the United States and do this E2 thing, how can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so first you can go to visitamerica.com. We have a special website that caters into almost any situation. Like some countries, it doesn't make sense to me that they're very friendly to the United States, but the United States does not have treaty agreement. And some countries are not friendly to the United States, have a treaty agreement. I don't get it, okay? But politics, okay? What we do, we have a website called e2visatoamerica.com that cater into
E2 Visa to America.
.com that solve, we have different websites. We have J1 Visa to America, E2 Visa to America, and the main website, which is Visa to America. By the way, we have also across the globe offices with other attorneys that they help people to immigrate from the United States or from Canada to those countries. So let's say you are here and you want to work in Germany, correct? How you start, what you should do. So we have a team there. If we have other countries in Spain or whatever, because some people move for global, maybe they got a job, maybe Intel open another location, maybe Apple open another location, they need to move some executive. How you do that, correct? So the mobility of people around the globe, it's not only coming to America. The world today is one place. You have social media, you have people move fast, they know what's happening. And many times, the reason to move is a job, or life, or wife, or love, or whatever take you, correct? Or just being fascinated, traveling around the globe. What visa I need? How should I do that? Why not to make it easier on both sides? So what we do, we really tell people, listen, don't do a stupid mistake and get your life and destroy your life technically by violating the immigration law. Do it right from beginning. There are solutions. Honestly, there are solutions almost to anything. Sometimes it's harder for certain countries because of political issue, but normally it's not that hard if you just follow a path. I remember I met a guy a long time ago from India that told me that he applied 9 times. He was determined to get visa to the United States. 9 times, he was denied. 8 times, the 9th time he got approved. He said, every time I tried to learn why she denied me. Eventually he got the visa and came in. And after years, he had the green card, but he says, he's a painter. He did all this mural and all this church inside, very talented. And eventually he went around the globe and did a job. And he didn't stay here all the time, but it's just a passion for him to come and see United States and be here, to see the life of what is America about, what is the freedom about that maybe he doesn't have in those countries. So I know it's hard for the consular sometimes because they go through a lot of people that have to make decision in a snap of a second, but we don't have anybody that can override them. We don't, honestly, we don't. I think even the president probably, he can issue some visa directly, but even him, sometimes it's hard for him to override a consular. They have a discretion that is above anything.
They have broad discretion to
very
approve.
broad discretion.
So is it Visa, the number 2, or is it Visa TO America?
It's visatoamerica.com.
Okay.
And that's the main website. But again, you can see that we handle different countries and situation. I enjoy it's yeah, we make money, whatever, but I enjoy. And many times we help people that are in very bad situation for nothing, just because we feel like victim, women who come here, marry American guys, suddenly beaten up, thrown up in the desert with the children, and we send them the money, bring them back home and fight for them in court. And then we use the family law attorneys to, bring them back so they can be at home back again. I mean, we saw any crazy situation you can think about when somebody coming here and is so naive, don't understand how the immigration, and they get scared. So now someone from the United States take advantage of them, and we feel really bad for that. So we do that too, but we do that as a nonprofit. We do that more to really help the people. So many times that's the thing. We deal a lot with the business community, helping the employees, the high end, the investment to come, like the EB-5, which require $1 million investment, hire 10 American people. We do that. And that's where we make the money. But we use some of our resources to help people who don't have the chance. And I wish, we could have some ears between the two parties, because that shouldn't be an issue to resolve the rest of the people. But,
So all those visas that I introduced in the beginning, you all take care of those, and you help people to obtain one of these visas if they fall into that category.
The main categories that we deal with is the J1, which is exchange between country culture. We deal with the H-1B, which is the high-end employment. We deal with the E-1, E-2, which is the treaty and the trade between country. When the investment, we deal with that. But again, all the other family categories, most time we let other people deal with. But if we see that something got out of the whack because they need to go to court or whatever, then we try to put a good team to help those people. And most of the time we do it on our own good heart and volunteer. We don't charge them anything, because someone come with no money, what are you going to do? So we try to help them out. And that's kind of my passion when I see that we're successful by overcoming those obstacles that the person sitting down in the corner and he thought his life is ending because he doesn't know what to do anymore. Or someone take advantage of him because of his immigration status, which, as most of us immigrant, we understand the pain, what can happen to you in courts, and how the system is so convoluted and not clear, even for the judges. Even the judges on the bench doesn't understand sometimes how to solve a problem. When it doesn't make sense, you just look at the book and he said, that's what it says. I don't know what to do. I feel it's bad, but I don't know what to do. I don't have the power to overcome that. Right.
Thank you two so much for being on our show and sharing with us what you do at Visa to America. As I said earlier, our show is a very diverse show, and we have people from all over the world. So when we have people come on our show from different countries and speak different languages, we ask them to close us out in their native tongue. So Bob, first, I'll ask you as we're closing out, can you thank all of the people? You speak Farsi, correct?
Farsi, yes, I can speak Farsi.
Can you tell all the people in your native tongue in Farsi, thank you for watching and thank you for supporting the show, and have a great week. And then I'll ask the same for you, Joseph, in Hebrew.
خیلی متشکریم از تمام کسانی که این نمایش را نگاه کردن. امیدوارم که سال خوبی داشته باشین و امیدوارم که دوباره شما را ببینم.
Thank you, Joseph.
תודה רבה על זה שצפיתם בתוכנית היום. סולון נמצא בוושינגטון DC, אנחנו נמצאים בלוס אנג'לס. דיברנו היום הרבה על נושא ההגירה. החברה שלנו תשמח לעזור לכם בהמשך, ושיהיה בהצלחה.
Awesome. Isn't that wonderful? We just have such an eclectic group. Thank you all. Thank you for tuning in. Dr. Cheney, you're going to work on your mic to see what was going on. John Salati, thank you again so much. Thank you all
Yes.
for tuning in. Subscribe at the button, and you could also email us at Remus Enterprises if you have any questions or if you want to contact Bob and Joseph. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching our video. For experienced legal services in Washington, D.C., Alabama, and Washington State, visit our website at remuslaw.com or call us at 1-833-329-1799.